In this video, we will see about lookup functions, VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. The purpose of these functions is to look up a value in a dataset and return a corresponding value from the same row of that dataset. For example, in this dataset, we can look for a student name and get back any of these values from the same row. Here we have a fee defaulters list data table containing student name, the class in which the student is studying, the fee due amount, and the student registration number. Here we have another table containing the class and its class teacher's name. Our objective is to get the defaulter student's details. We will look up the student's name in our data table, and based on that name, we will retrieve its corresponding detail. First, we will create a drop-down list of student names mentioned in the fee defaulters list. For that, go to Data. Click this Data Validation button. Click Data Validation. Here, under Validation Criteria, we will select List. Here we will provide the source of the list, which is this array of student names in the fee defaulters list. Now click OK. Here we can see that a drop-down list of all the student names is created. We can select any name from this list and dynamically retrieve its corresponding information. We have selected the name, Liam Brown. We will retrieve Liam Brown's registration number, the class in which he studies, his fee due amount, and his class teacher's name. All these details we will retrieve from these two data tables. Note that, whatever our lookup is based on, it should be the leftmost column in the data table. In our case, our lookup is based on the student's name, so the student's name column has to be the leftmost column in the fee defaulters list dataset. Otherwise, our lookup will not work, and we will not get the result. We will see an example later. Okay. Let us retrieve the registration number of the student, Liam Brown. We will use the VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP means vertical lookup. Since our data table has column headers, we will use vertical lookup, or VLOOKUP function. The first argument is lookup value. Since our lookup is based on the student's name, the lookup value argument will be this student's name. So we are looking for Liam Brown. But where will we look for Liam Brown? And that is the next argument, table array. It is the data table, where we will search for the lookup value. We are going to search Liam Brown, in this data table. We need to select the complete data table. It will not work if we only select the student name column and registration number column, because there are two more columns in between them. So, the complete table needs to be selected. The next argument is the column index number. Here we are retrieving the registration number. In our data table, the registration number information is present in the fourth column. So, the column index number will be 4. The next argument is range lookup. It is about the kind of match we want to perform. We have two values for it. True for an approximate match, and false for an exact match. Note that if we want to use an approximate match, that is true, then the column on which our search is based upon, needs to be sorted in ascending order. So, in our case, this student name column should be sorted in ascending order. Otherwise, it will give us a wrong result. We will look at an example of it later. Also, the approximate match, that is true, is the default value of the range lookup argument. For now, we will go with the exact match option, which is the value false. And here we got the registration number for Liam Brown. We can check in the data table. The registration number matches. Let's change the matching method to approximate match, that is the value true for the range lookup argument. We can see that the retrieved registration number for Liam Brown does not match the registration number in the data table. In fact, it is the registration number of Isabella Anderson. As I mentioned before that, if we want to use approximate match or true value, then the column should be sorted in ascending order. Our student name column in the data table is not sorted at all. Let's sort our data table in ascending order based on the student name. Under the data menu, click on Sort. Here, for Sort By, we will select Student Name. The order is A to Z, which is in ascending order. Then click OK. We can see that our data table is sorted alphabetically in ascending order based on student name. And now we can see that the retrieved registration number is also matching with the registration number in the data table. Let's select another student and match the registration number. Yes, it is matching. So, if we are using true or approximate match, then make sure to sort the column in ascending order. Let's undo it. We will go with the exact match method, that is value false, for the rest of the demonstration. Let us now retrieve the class information for our student Liam Brown. We will write our VLOOKUP function. Our search is based on the student name, so the lookup value will be this, student name. Our data table is the table array. Note that, in this case, we can also only select the columns student name and class as table array, because there is no other column between them. But for uniformity, we will select the complete data table. Since we want to retrieve the class information of the student, and the class information is present in the second column of the data table, so we will put the column index number as 2. Then false for an exact match. And we got Liam Brown's class as 6th. It matches with the value in the data table. In the same way, we will retrieve the due amount value. We will write the formula. Equal to VLOOKUP. Cell reference to the student's name. Here we can select the table array up to the due amount column, or we can select the complete data table. Since the due amount information is in the third column, so the column index number is 3. Then false for an exact match. Like this, we retrieve the due amount of Liam Brown. Let me align it to the left. Now the class teacher's name. We will look up this class teacher list. It contains the class and the class teacher name columns. The formula will be equal to VLOOKUP. Here we will look up this class detail that we obtained from the defaulter list table. Then we will select our table array. The names of the class teachers are in the second column, so we will write 2. Then, false for the exact match. And we got the class teacher's name of Liam Brown. We can verify the class teacher's name from the data table. Now we can select any student, and get all the required corresponding details dynamically from both data tables. We can verify the retrieved details from the table. We can also write the nested VLOOKUP formula in the case of retrieving the class teacher's name. Like this. Here, instead of selecting class as a lookup value from here, we can write a VLOOKUP function that will retrieve the class detail from the phi defaulter list table for the selected student name. Then, this outer VLOOKUP function will retrieve the class teacher name from this class teacher list data table, based on the returned value of the class by the inner VLOOKUP function. Suppose we have 2 students by the same name, Mia Garcia. Their other corresponding details are different. As soon as we hit enter, the retrieved details get updated. We can see that the details of the first, Mia Garcia, is retrieved. It means that the VLOOKUP function cannot return values for multiple search encounters. It will return only the value of the first search hit. Let's undo the changes. The other thing that we mentioned earlier was that while using the VLOOKUP function, the column containing the lookup value must be the leftmost column in the data table. In our example, our function is based on the student's name. So the student name column should be the leftmost column in the data table. Let us see an example where we look up the registration number to retrieve the corresponding student name. Note that the registration column is not the leftmost column in the data table. So let's begin writing our formula. Equal to VLOOKUP. The lookup value will be the registration number. Then select the table array. We need to retrieve the student's name, and the student's name resides in the first column of the data table. So the column index number will be 1. Then false for the exact match. As soon as we hit enter, we get the NA error. For this to work, the registration number column should have been the leftmost column in the data table. So this was all about the use of the VLOOKUP function in Microsoft Excel. A very similar function to the VLOOKUP function is the HLOOKUP function. HLOOKUP means horizontal lookup. When the table headers are mentioned row-wise, that time we will use HLOOKUP instead of VLOOKUP. Here we can see that both our data tables are horizontal tables, unlike in the previous example where tables were vertical. Here also we will retrieve the same details based on the student's name. Let's quickly create a drop-down list for the student names as we saw before. Our student name list is ready. Now let us retrieve the registration number. Here we will use the HLOOKUP function instead of VLOOKUP. The rest is the same as VLOOKUP. We will select the lookup value. Then select the table array. Then the row index number of the registration number. It is in the 4th row. So we will type 4. Then false for an exact match. In this way, we retrieve the registration number of the student. We can verify it from the data table. In the same way, we will retrieve the class information for the student. The formula will be the same, except for the row index number. Class details are in the 2nd row. So, the row index number here will be 2. Hit enter. We got the class details. In the same way, we will get the due amount detail of the student. The class teacher data table is also in horizontal format. So, to retrieve the class teacher's name we will use HLOOKUP function. Let's quickly write the required formula. And we got the class teacher's name. While using HLOOKUP we need to take care that the row where our lookup value resides should be the topmost row in the data table. Like in our case, we are retrieving details based on the student's name. So the row containing the student's name should be the topmost row in the data table. Otherwise, HLOOKUP will give an NA error. And just like VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP cannot return multiple values even if there are multiple matches. It will return the value of the first match. So this was all about the VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP in Microsoft Excel. If you liked the information then, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your time and patience. Have a nice day.